What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Birds Deep. We are sitting here without our fearless leader, D. Godfrey. He should be here shortly, but I'm here. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. And right to my left is the man from Eagles Elite Podcast, Play Callers Podcast, Cool McCain. How you feeling tonight, Cool?
Another Eagles win. Those are always good weeks.
Definitely. 3-0, man. I feel like 3-0, this is like the first win the Philadelphia Eagles got out of there, and people are like, okay, they're good. Like, winning in football is hard, whether it be versus the Arizona Cardinals, Dallas, or whether it be versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Winning in football is hard. It's not an easy task. So what we look at right now is we see a 3-0 team that has 2 road wins already. Road wins are huge in the National Football League. They have 2 primetime wins already. Primetime wins are huge in the National Football League. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a 3-0 football team. That defense absolutely dominated down in Tampa. We'll get into our positional grades between quarterback, defensive coordinator, and head coach. But before we do that, let me ask you one thing, Cool. Who is your star? You can only give one, can't give 2. Star of the game for the Philadelphia Eagles, week number 3 versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
That's the easiest question anybody's ever asked me, sir.
Okay.
He is a rookie from the University of Georgia, drafted number 9 overall, Mr. Jalen Carter. And I'll tell you why he's the one, right? There were guys that individually had better stats. You know, you had some guys make big plays offensively. You had Mr. Swift show us who he is again. But at that moment, Jalen Hurts dropped back. He throws the pass to Devontae Smith. Instead of going up a high pointer like Smith usually does, he waits for it to come. Guy comes across, snatches it, interceptions, ball's going the other way. Team's a little deflated, momentum's gone. Jalen Carter on the next set of plays, right? Next downs. Looks like he's going to rush. He sees the rusher come by him, turns, grabs him, has the wherewithal to then cock his arm back and punch the ball out, thus giving us a turnover, again, giving us the ball back and allow us to then go down and get points. So that momentum shift on that play, him having the wherewithal to do that, along with the half a sack he got, to me is what makes him my player of the game.
Well, we talk about him. We talked about him before the show. He's here now. The man, the myth, the legend, taking it deep. D. Godfrey. Welcome to the screen, my friend.
What's up?
Nice computer updates right before the show. We missed you. We were worried about you, Matt.
Yeah, no, it's I almost threw my computer against the wall.
Almost.
But I was like, that won't really help me get on the show quicker. So let's not do that. So
what we're talking about is, who was your star of the game on Monday Night Football? Cool went out there and told you right now. He said it was Jalen Carter, the man from Georgia. Your star of the game for Monday Night Football, you can only pick one.
I mean, do we have to be different? I mean, because I would have definitely went with Jalen. I mean, but
no, you don't have to be different. You could copy his style.
I mean, I want to say the whole Eagles defensive tackle rotation, to be honest. I mean,
it's kind of cheating, but
I mean it is. But I mean, Fletcher Cox is I think really he's a good influence on these 2 young defensive tackles we have. I mean, I can't say that enough, and you just see it. I heard a story from Mike Quick. I was listening to him on the radio, and he was talking about how he saw Jalen Carter kind of laughing it up on the sidelines before the game, talking to people, and then Fletcher Cox took him aside and was like, "Listen, let's do this." And he started working on stuff before the game. Carter started talking out like how they're going to approach their plan of attack, and it permeates into the game. Like that is, I think, the strength of the. Say what?
Permeation.
Like
permeating.
You see it play out in the game. I mean, I think the Eagles, I dare say, have the best, defensive tackle rotation in the league. Like, I don't know who else stands up against that.
Well, defensive tackle rotation, I don't even think there's a question. Is there a question?
I doubt it.
Is there a question? Is there another 1-2 combo, 1-2-3 combo defensive tackle rotation in the NFL even close to the Philadelphia Eagles?
None that comes across my mind whatsoever.
All right.
What about the Hawaiian guy or a Samoan guy that I'm going to mess his name up that's on the line? I can't remember his last name, but I'm going to butcher it. Yeah. I mean, he's playing well too. I mean, maybe he's getting some shrapnel from the other guys, but he's in there making plays.
I'll say this, right? With the risk of giving the wrong answer because I don't want to be similar to you two, I am just absolutely floored. I'm enamored. I'm elated. I'm excited. The Philadelphia Eagles have an explosive running back. And DeAndre Swift, once again, proved that last week was no fluke. We were not fluking you when we ran for 180 and absolutely cut between the tackles, dominated that. You can't run against this Bucs defensive line. You can't run against this Bucs defensive front. I wonder what idiot said that. Oh, I did. I said that. I was wrong because the offensive line and DeAndre Swift 100% proved me wrong. Now, I would love to give a whole rotation like Godfrey did. Can I give the whole offensive line if you're giving the whole defensive line?
Yeah,
because they dominated up front. But
I think you should.
I'll give it to the better Swift and the better Kelsey. Kelsey Swift. I'll take my Jason and my DeAndre over my Taylor and my Travis. What combo would you take in a fight? I'm taking Jason and DeAndre.
Yeah.
Well, are we including Taylor's bodyguards in it? Because if we're including Taylor's bodyguards, I might go with the other one.
Yeah, right.
Hey, with Kelsey comes the entire offensive line. You get Mailata, you get Lane, you get Landon.
I'm really interested in the DeAndre Swift thing and how it plays out, and it kind of extrapolates out into the Detroit Lions, which I'll get into on the next show, sideline to sideline after this show. People like to say, well, DeAndre Swift, he's injured a lot. He can't run between the tackles. And I just laugh when people say that because people just hear a narrative and they accept it. They don't really look at it. Yep. If you look at the kid's career, he's never played less than 13 games. Here's the thing that people never, ever talk about and discount with DeAndre Swift and what he went through in Detroit. They want to combine, I believe, 10 games in the 3 years he was there. Let me say that again. 10 overall games. When you play on a losing team, especially the year before last year, when they were passing all the time, you will get less run opportunities to run between the tackle. You will get less opportunities overall as a running back, right? They were a horrible organization. I argue kind of are still, but they're better than they were. And they didn't use the kid right. And it's obvious. And I want to give you guys some stats to support this real quick. I worked really hard on this. Not hard, but I put out a post after the game. You can follow me, The Godfrey. And I was talking about it because all my non-Philadelphia friends, they're going to say, oh, you guys are just hyping him up because he's your guy. Anybody would be good behind the offensive line. I said, you know what? I'm going to take that challenge. So I compared Miles Sanders' numbers from 2022 to DeAndre Swift's numbers through the first 3 games. Let's review, my friends. 220 carries, 222 yards on 45 carries for Miles Sanders, 4.9 yards per carry. Not bad at all through 3 games. Now, Swift, who would play 3 games, but we can count that one, I guess. I did the averages with it in there anyway. Through 3 games, he has 308 yards on 35 carries, 8.8 yards for carries. So not only is he getting more yards, he's more efficient. 76 more yards on 10 fewer carries. Same old line, better numbers. How can you tell me that that's just someone getting behind a good line? He is killing it against a team that said you can't run against Vita Vea. It came out of my mouth too. It's hard to run against that team. It's hard to run against that linebackers. So yeah, you're right. Behind this offensive line, a lot of people look good, but not everybody's getting 8.8 yards per carry. And I've always argued that Swift coming in here will at least be able to have a year equal to what Miles Sanders had last year, if not better, and probably on fewer touches. I rest my case, Your Honor.
Listen, I'll put it to you this way. I think that DeAndre Swift looks great, and that's my pick. We got to get grades. We got to give previews for our previous week. Let's start with the quarterback position. Jalen Hurts was dealing with a sickness, an illness of the game. No excuses. But let's give a grade for Jalen Hurts. Now, before you give that grade, I think it's only fair to give context to the grade. Now, statistically, might not have looked the best week for him. And I'm okay with that. I understand what happened. I watched the football game, but I'll read it out loud. Let's give context. 23-37, 277, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, a 62.5 QBR. He also ran the ball 10 times for 28 yards and a tush-push touchdown.
Tush-push. The brotherly shove? Or the
Brotherly
tush-push?
shove.
I'm calling it the tushy-pushy.
Either way, whatever y'all want to call it.
Everybody's
would
got
you
their
give-
panties in a bunch about that. Everybody is so butthurt about the tush push because they can't stop it.
Get it? Butthurt? Tush
Yep.
push? All right.
Yep.
But Godfrey, what would you give Jalen Hurts as a grade for this week's on Monday Night Football?
So I didn't know he was sick, so I'm going to grade it based off not knowing he was sick. But that did, made me understand a few things. I think people look at quarterback rating and they look at stats and they don't really go inside the stats. Yeah, he had a turnover. I think there's some miscommunication on one of these turnovers, but the signature moment for me that makes me give him, and people might disagree here, I felt he played better and he's working on a few things, was the throw to Zaccheaus. That was a beautiful throw. He's moving up in the pocket, he's looking downfield, he's hanging in there. And he put it right on the money in there. I mean, that was just a beautiful throw to me. And that shows me progression as a quarterback, as a player. And, it wasn't his best game. So I'm probably going to go B- just because he had some turnovers. There was some rustiness there, but I feel like he's getting more in the flow of things week by week. And even though the stat sheet doesn't really say that this week, I feel like I came away feeling that by watching him on field and the way he performed.
What's the grade?
B-.
I don't think that I think there's too much being made about the Zaccheaus catch. I do. And I'll explain to you why.
Well, for Zaccheaus, but that was a hell of a throw, I think.
It was the same. It was the same throw that he threw to Devontae Smith that got picked. It's just where he threw it and Smith couldn't run through the ball.
Right.
Okay. To me, he held the ball way too long. He took a really tough hit at the end of that play. And I think that the ball was placed well. It was barely out of the outstretched arms of the defender. I felt like that ball was adjusted. I felt like that ball was meant to be thrown about 3 to 4 yards deeper. And by him taking the hit, I felt like that ball came up short. And I've watched the replay of this throw like 15 times at this point. He's starting to get hit in the beginning of his follow-through. I think he held the ball too much. I think he looked sick. You could tell he was struggling on the sideline. Facial expressions weren't there. I love the Lane Johnson moment where he pulled A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts together after a play and patted them both and got them on the same page. I would just love to I'm going to give you a grade here, and I'm going to pass it over to Cool. I'm going to give him a C, a flat C, not a C+, not a C-. 73, 74. You got right above that 71, 72 range. They give you the minus. 74 for a game. I don't think he was great. I don't. And I'll be interested to see where Cool ranks this, because he's already made a comment about the Devontae Smith interception where Devontae didn't run through the ball. So I think he might have a higher grade than I do, just judging off context clues. But let me pass the rock. Cool. What grade do you give QB1?
I'm going to give him a C+. I'm going to give him a C+ because I talked earlier about the Devontae Smith interception and how I feel like it was the same type of ball. He probably held it a little bit too. But the placement was good, but you have to understand there has to have more zip, and it needs to be either higher or lower if you're going to go in that window when you have the sideline as a defender. So that's something to me. I'm like, come on, Jalen. Like, I expect you to be able to kind of make that a little bit more catchable for only Devontae Smith. You threw a 50-50 ball, but you threw it in a position where the only thing Smith would have been able to do is go up and try to get it in the corner. And Smith is not a big guy. So he'll go up and get it when he's in the middle, when he's not worried about a guy, coming to hit him. But he could have took quite a brutal hit in that situation. So I'm not too mad at him for not jumping up to get it. But I would have liked for him to come forward and try to at least play defensive back once he saw the defender coming. But the throw itself was a microcosm of the game. Hurts was a little late on some throws. His reads were a little bit off. I get that he was sick, and I appreciate him staying in the game and playing, because if we put the running back masquerading as a backup quarterback in, this game is a problem. So I do appreciate him coming in and saying, I know I'm sick, but I'm going to push it together. And all you talking about Lane Johnson, A.J. Brown, and Jalen Hurts, a lot of people may not know this, but A.J. Brown also had flu-like symptoms. So he was struggling a little bit out there actually too.
Yeah.
And also, A.J. Brown dropped some touchdowns. Right, he made some great catches, but he dropped some touchdowns.
I don't want to get into that. Cool, you're gonna hurt my feelings. I had a parlay, and I hit every single thing on the parlay.
But AJ Brown,
the AJ Brown touchdown, it was $100 to win $1,500, and he dropped two $1,500 biscuits for me.
Yep, and I mean the thing is, he's gonna make those catches most of the time, but he didn't end. Right, so you got to be like, come on, bro, we need those, but. It wasn't a situation where it didn't end up hurting us or losing us a game, but we need our number one, the guy that was begging for the ball last week, to squeeze those hands on those touchdowns. So hopefully, we don't have a repeat of that. Maybe a little bit of that was because he also had some flu-like symptoms, but
he said he had bad food, stomach. He said stomach was bothering him. I think Jalen was actually sick, had like a cold, and I think that AJ had a stomach bug. So I think they were two different viruses, but I think they were both playing ill.
Yeah, because I mean, the report was that it was like 4 or 5 of them that had the flu-like symptoms. AJ Brown was one of them.
That makes sense. All right, let's move on to the head coach. Head coach, we're 6:19 in. Why don't you start us out, cool? Head coach Nick Sirianni. What do you give him as a grade for Monday Night Football?
I'm gonna give Nick a B.
Okay.
I'm gonna give him a solid B. Because I think that he has been in the ear of Brian Johnson saying, come on, Brian, we gotta work better together. Come on, man. You gotta get some plays in here that are gonna work. One of the things I will give Brian Johnson credit for even before this game is adapting, making changes. This is something I didn't see a lot with Shane Steichen, in my opinion. If it worked, he would continue to do it. If it didn't work, he would just stop. But he wouldn't say, okay, this isn't working, so let's do this instead. I'm trying to run off the right-hand side of the middle that's not working. Let's cut it inside and try to go in. But instead of going in, let's do like an off-tackle type run instead. Those are not the adjustments I've seen Steichen make, but I'm seeing Brian Johnson make those adjustments. And then on the defensive side, I'm seeing good play calling. I'm still seeing some questionable for certain people actually going out and playing, but I'm seeing play calling make me feel confident that, okay, we're trying to get in the right things and we're diversifying it. We're not sticking in blitzing all day. We're not sticking in tight zone all day. We're not sticking in man all day. We're mixing things in. There were even a couple of times where one corner was playing man and one corner was playing zone based on what they were seeing from the offense. So I like the fact that there's some diversity in what the play calling is and how we're doing. I think that's coming down from the head coach being disseminated to his coordinators.
I have Nick Sirianni as an A+. And I'll explain to you why. I have a really lengthy reason why. They went on the road on Monday night. Let's start with the easy one. They went on the road on Monday Night Football and absolutely dominated a 2-0 football team. Regardless of what you think about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think they dominated a 2-0 football team, and they looked absolutely prepared. Now, you have guys on the team with flu-like symptoms. Jalen Hurts was sick. A.J. Brown was sick. Didn't matter. Didn't matter one bit. The offensive game plan was there. But the biggest reason for the A+, and this goes with Brian Johnson too. I put Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson joined at the hip as far as the offensive side of football. Okay. Philadelphia Eagles, it's 25-3. Philadelphia Eagles allow a touchdown drive and a 2-point conversion. It's a 2-score game. There's 9 minutes left in the game. The game's not over. It's a 14-point game with 9 minutes left. Nick Sirianni and that Philadelphia Eagles offense beat them into submission. They quit. A 9-minute drive ended with a kneel down. They bullied them. Tick, 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 tick. Tick, 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 tick. Bullied them down the field. Sealed the game. The Bucs never touched the football again. I listen. I don't think it might be a second, third A+ I ever given Nick Sirianni. Game plan was there. They were sick. They dominated on the road on Monday Night Football. A+. Nick Sirianni gets my highest grade this season so far. I felt like the Philadelphia Eagles start to look like the Philadelphia Eagles, and it was all phases. Offense, defense, special teams. I can't look at anything they did in that football game and say that was bad coaching. So I give them an A+. Godfrey?
The fourth down play on the first drive was bad coaching.
The fourth down. Remind me the play.
So they got all the way down to the red zone. They had 4th and 2, and they decided to do the
To
one thing
run
that
the
I
ball
never
to
wanted to
Kenny
do
Gainwell.
with Kenny Gainwell. That was bad coaching.
That was. Okay. So they got an A+ with a little asterisk.
That's fine. You can still give them an A+. I just want to call it. That was that one.
That was. You're right. You're right. I give you that one. I agree. I was mad about that play too. Godfrey, what do you give Nick Sirianni?
I'm gonna give him an A-.
Because of the play.
Yep.
See, this is. I felt like I was cheated here. I forgot about the play.
The thing is overall, the coach, I feel like he had the team prepared. They played well. They weren't playing afraid. This is a good defense that they played. This is not a bad defense. Okay, this is a defense that should match up well against the Eagles, and the Eagles dominated them. In the trenches, they won both sides of the ball, and I think Nick Sirianni gets a little cute sometimes, hence the Gainwell run, and just likes to reinvent the wheel. Every coach does it a little bit. You're like, why the hell? And I'll give this a name. We'll call it the Taysom Hill Award. Okay. Because Taysom Hill's a ball player, but when he was there with Sean Payton, I always be like, why the hell are you putting this guy in when you have Alvin Kamara? Right. And like you have all these studs on your team. And I don't think Kenny Gainwell's a bad player. I just feel like they have this thing where like we have to get him involved. Right. Like you don't have to get him involved. Right. There's a lot of weapons on the team. And I was wondering that too. I'm like, what's with that call? So what I did like, though, is the special teams seem to be on the up and up, so they're activating the right guy, right? I mean, when's the last time we see that kind of special teams performance? Not too often, right? So that's encouraging. Maybe the kind of weakness in the Bucs special teams. I'm not going to tell you that I scouted the Bucs special teams because I sure as hell didn't. I do feel like the squeaky wheel did get the oil with AJ Brown. And, listen, that's not the first time we've seen that in the history of the NFL. When the squeaky wheel, needs some oil, they oiled it up and they got on the ball and they needed to get him going. And I thought that's important. AJ, you need to catch those, though. Like I feel like I saw a look from Jalen when he dropped that first one where he was like, it was almost like, come on, bruh. Like it was a look like that. Cool. Did you see that look? You guys see that look? It was the first one that AJ dropped. And I almost felt like his expression was like, oh, this motherfucker. Like,
I was joking
I felt like
the live stream I was doing.
Talking about on the slant. I felt like Jalen Hurts' expression showed me that they were trying to get him a touchdown. He was disappointed that they didn't get him one. It to me looked like they were trying to force AJ Brown in the end zone. There's multiple plays that looked like they were forcing the ball to him.
I did like Dallas Goedert getting more involved because I felt like we were lacking that, right? So that's another reason why I was really happy with, the scheme and the play calling. Outside of the Gainwell thing, I don't really have a problem with the guy, and I'm giving him an A-. I just sometimes he tries to get a little cute with certain things, and I'm like, oh, he's being cute again, and that's what I thought when I saw the Gainwell play.
Well, that's why I gave him a B. I mean, I did.
Damn, you attacked him that hard for that?
Not for just that, but just I'm looking at it. I'm saying there were some good things, but one of the reasons why I'm giving him a B is because he put Josh Jobe at outside corner and James Bradbury started at nickel corner. I'm sorry, but if you go back and you look at all the plays that they were making, all the big catches that they were making, who were they making them on? Who was guarding the player? Josh Jobe.
Yeah.
If they had any sense, If Tampa Bay's offensive coordinator had any level of intelligence, all you had to do was tell Baker Mayfield, figure out who is covered by Josh Jobe, and get him. Just saying.
Well, I don't. And this is something we kind of talked about last year with Steichen and Sirianni, and we're doing it the same way this year so far. And I get you're giving it a different side of the coin. Our third grade goes to Sean Desai. So we give the whole defensive side of ball. We look at our head coach as the offensive coordinator, the offensive guy. Him and Brian Johnson are just like him and Shane Steichen were last year. Sean Desai made that decision. That's a Sean Desai defense, and that will reflect his grade, which I gave Sean Desai an A-. I think Sean Desai looked great on Monday night. I felt like the defensive line looked amazing. That safety was hilarious. Jalen Carter took their right guard, put him on the ground with one arm. Jordan Davis took their left guard and pushed him into the running back. It was fun to watch. It was monstrous damage up front. What makes the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line so strong is they do not have to blitz to get after the quarterback, which allows them to have more people to drop in the coverage. When you can send a 4-man rush at the quarterback and get pressure, particularly up the middle, it's a scary world to be a quarterback in. I don't want Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick's still banged up with that thumb. I see people calling him out like, where's Hassan Reddick? He sucks. And like, dude, please understand the circumstances. The guy's got playing with trying to repair his thumb. It kind of matters a little bit when you're trying to gain leverage on the defensive line. Regardless, the Philadelphia Eagles are 3-0. I give Sean Desai an A-. Cool. What do you give Sean Desai, the Eagles defensive coordinator? See, this is where I would unload at the Bradbury Jobe comments. I think they're trying to look for a more permanent position at nickel this year. I think that Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks have played their entire college careers on the outside, whereas Bradbury has some work in the slot. If Bradbury ends up playing the slot, I'd like to see Keely Ringo or Eli Ricks on the outside ahead of Josh Jobe.
Just another guy on the active roster that has played nickel cornerback, and that is Sidney Brown. So why not try Sidney Brown at nickel corner instead of putting one of your outside corners that we really need to play, especially as we go on through the season there. And the reason why I deem Nick Sirianni for that as well, as he is the head coach. He's the guy that can say, Sean, that's not a good idea. We're not going to do that. He let him do it. So you got to take it. You got to take some of the heat for that as well. I am going to give Sean Desai a B+ because I saw a lot of improvement, and obviously getting back Reed Blankenship, Fletcher Cox being healthy, those things, as well as Bradbury being back on the field, those things obviously make a difference. But like I said in the beginning, I love the play calling. I love the fact that he's being a lot more versatile. You just got to be able to say, Bradbury needs to be on the outside. Maybe I put him inside for a few plays, but if I do that, to your point, Gene, I need to go with Ringo or I need to go with Ricks, probably Ringo at this point, to be that other outside corner. And maybe working in some Ricks to see how he does as well. But putting Jobe there, that's not the right move, sir. And please let's not do that again. Because like I said, that could have been taken advantage of a lot more than it was. He did make a couple of good plays. I'm not going to say every time the ball was thrown his way, it was a completion or a good play, but there was a lot more that were than weren't. There was maybe one or two good plays he made. There was a lot of times. I felt like every time there was a catch, and obviously I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but I feel like every time there was a catch, it was such and such. Josh Jobe was somewhere around flailing. That's just, that was my perception from the game. And I did watch it back, but, I may have a little bit of bias, possibly. But I give him a solid B+. I liked it. Just got to continue to get better and figure out that third corner because, we've got a guy there that's pretty much street clothes as well because he's always found a way to get injured too.
Maddox, you talking about Mr. Glass? I have actually drafted him to the all glass team. I'm going to make up a list of they got all pro. I got all glass inspired by Samuel L. Jackson, Mr. Glass from Unbreakable.
Fair enough. I give him street clothes. He's in the street clothes brigade for the NFL division. So either way you want to go, we're saying the same thing for sure.
Some guys just are unlucky and they get hurt. Football's a rough game, and it's impossible not to get injured. But some guys, they just it's like he reminds me not of his obviously different positions, but it almost reminds me of when Jordan Hicks was here. We're like, man, this guy can never stay healthy. Then he leaves and has a couple good years. So but I like Maddox a lot. I just wish he was on the field more. But yeah, I'm an A for the defense. I'm gonna go A-. I don't think it was perfect, but I think it was really good. I like Sidney Brown a lot. I mean, I see him out there making some plays. I like that play in the end zone where he knocked the ball out. I think that was that on Evans or was that on Godwin? I can't remember which one, but it was in the corner. You guys know what play I'm talking about. And Blankenship stepping right back in, making some plays. And I like what's going on there. Desai ran a good secondary last year, in Seattle. So I expect a lot of that coming back to the Eagles this year. And I think it's showing. And with that defensive line, the Eagles are a problem, because they get scored too. They're a problem. I know, people want to talk about rankings, and I love all people's BS power rankings through week 2. People that are out there trolling got Cowboys number 1. I'm like, get the hell out of here. And that played out. Didn't know they're going to lose to the Cardinals, but and
did not expect that. Honestly,
did not expect that, but
I enjoyed it.
At the end of the day, my team, the team I root for, I know they always have a shot to play when they're playing the way this team's constructed, and that's not going to happen to their defense. They're not going to get boat raced by Josh Dobbs. At first, for a couple of drives, you're like, it's almost like the Anthony Joshua Ruiz fight. Like, the Cowboys got hit in the side of the head and the equilibrium got knocked off by Ruiz. And like, what's going on? Oh my God. Are they going to quit? So, I mean, I was really happy with the defense. I was just blown away by the defensive line. They just were like, yeah, this is our backfield. The safety, I mean, they were all over them. And, we said it before the game got played. Last week, you got to get Baker off his spot. And the best thing about a defensive line that has a strong, aggressive front, we don't got guys that are run stuffers. We got guys that can rush the passer. Jordan Davis is a beast. You could just see he's coming into his own. He was injured a lot last year. I mean, we have the Eagles have an embarrassment of riches, and they move that pocket. And I don't care who you are. There is nothing. When I say nothing, there is nothing you can do as a quarterback. I don't care if you're Tom Brady and Joe Montana and Dan Marino and Michael Vick's legs all rolled into one. When the pressure comes up the middle, it destroys the play. Any play in the playbook. And there's nothing you can do. And it's death to any offense. I don't care if it's the greatest show on turf. Like you've seen it. Like the best example I could give people out there that might not be an Eagles fan is one of the things that undefeated Patriots team that put up all those points, they were going right up the middle on them, and they couldn't do nothing about it. And this team that blew out that team like 3-4 weeks ago in that Super Bowl, they ended up beating them. And pressure up the middle, man. It's the recipe for so many upsets. But this wasn't an upset. I was just really thrilled with. I just felt like they imposed their will defensively, and I guess I give it an A+ if it was a shutout. I guess that's the only way I'm going to get there. So,
Kyle Edwards, who's the biggest threat to the Eagles outside the 49ers in the NFC? And as much hate as I throw their way and as much as they deserve it, it's Dallas. It's 100% Dallas. You guys have a different answer than that?
In the NFC?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to say Dallas because they have a good defense. I think losing that playmaker hurts. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, man. As people who reveal who they are, week 4 is here, and I think you're getting a sense of what these teams are. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have to go Dallas.
I mean, we talking about Detroit, Green Bay. Like, are we talking about one of those teams?
No,
I go not Dallas.
I go Dallas over San Fran because as wild as this sounds.
I think San Fran's won. I think
San Fran's the biggest threat, and then Dallas has a propensity to choke in the later parts of the season in the playoffs. So you definitely have to say San Francisco's a bigger threat. Because our goal is not just to make the playoffs and not just to win a playoff game, but it's actually try to win
I
the
think
Super
the
Bowl.
Cowboys are a
Yes.
tougher matchup for the Eagles than the 49ers. And there might be a lot of people that disagree with me. If you really watch, when I say watch, not the highlights, I'm sorry, highlight people. When you watch a game, you cannot tell me that Brock Purdy against the Giants was throwing the ball on time. It was all over the place. I watched it with my eyes. And
I watched him play versus Pittsburgh. He played great.
he played great against
I
Pittsburgh.
watched the week 2 Cowboys game against the Jets, and I
Mhm.
watched RDP, as I now refer to him, Mr. Prescott. I watched him go out there and just basically be saved by his defense. If he makes those mistakes against the Philadelphia Eagles, the way that he's been playing this year as a quarterback, they will not stand a chance against us. He's got to clean that up. We're going to scoop some of those. We're going to hop on those balls. They're not going to be overthrows that end up just falling to the ground. The misreads, the hole in the ball, that's not going to happen against us.
We got to get into the preview shortly, but I'm going to make one quick counterpoint to what Godfrey said, because I watch every game, and I know you know that, but I watch every game. And if you look at the San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys and you break them down position by position, the running back is 100% an edge to the San Francisco 49ers. The offensive line is basically a wash at this point. It used to be San Fran last year. It's probably San Fran now, with Dallas having 3/5 of their offensive line missing this past game, but all
compared to
healthy.
Dallas. Okay.
I think it's a wash. The defensive line is a wash, and every other position on the football field, San Francisco wins. Every other one: wide receiver, tight end, linebacker, secondary, every position on the football field, San Fran is better than Dallas. So San Fran's definitely one to me. And if you want to make an argument that you have Dak Prescott over Brock Purdy, which is fine, I agree with you, that's fine. But other than the quarterback, there's no position on the football field where you're like, Dallas is definitely better there.
Both teams can't play from behind. The San Francisco and Dallas, if they get behind, they're fucked. They are. I mean, so if you look at the type of throws and offense that San Francisco has, very dynamic, very explosive, but quick motion, get it out of the hand. Brock Purdy, if he has to drop back and they got to go deep down the field, they got to throw deeper throws, they're in trouble as an offense. And Dak Prescott, and I'll say it to my grave, when he gets down by 10 plus points, they're in trouble. When a defense knows Dak has to press the ball downfield, he doesn't perform well. The stats bear it out. It's not an opinion; it's a fact. I bet money on that game when they got down by a certain point, and I cashed in. And you know what? Because I knew what would happen. And listen, he got down in the red zone, threw an interception. Because you're right. I'm like, Jesus, I didn't think it was going to go like that. The play call was
terrible. That was a terrible pass.
And that's
triple coverage, right?
It's like you're making our point, Godfrey. It's almost like you're making our point, dude.
I hear it. It's tough.
Thank you.
It's a toss up, but it's a good question. Good question, like Kyle.
We got to get into the preview for the Washington Commies. The Commies are coming to town. The Washington Commanders had a very tough week as they went against the Buffalo Bills and lost 37-3. Got destroyed. Sam Howell, Eric Bieniemy, Riverboat Ron, that defensive line. They're now 8-point dogs versus Philadelphia in Philadelphia. What are the keys to victory on the defensive side of the ball for the Philadelphia Eagles? Cool. I'm going to start with you, brother.
Do you guys hear that, though? That's the Washington Commies. Are we a good team?
Access denied.
No. Sorry, we'll get to that. Cool. That's how they felt after that game. They got boat raced. It was ridiculous.
So
anyway,
quick shout out to Nolan Smith, who got some playing time and had a clean but ferocious hit on Baker Mayfield. Just showed how just aggressive he is. I love it. The keys defensively is follow what Buffalo did. Right, you've got the blueprint laying in front of you, so follow what Buffalo did. Make Sam Howell be the guy that has to beat you. We know that so far we've shown that we're pretty good against the run. Right, I'm being a little modest, so I say pretty good, but we're pretty good against the run. So
probably right now.
Yeah. So if you can stop them from running the ball and make them one-dimensional, and then you can attack the quarterback, you can make him see different looks. You can make Sam Howell have to read shifts and different formations and switches and things like that. Complicate things as much as we can for him as a young quarterback. And when the ball is, when he throws a couple of those ducks, because young quarterbacks always throw 1 or 2 ducks, right? It just happens they get overwhelmed a little bit. They just throw a duck, make him pay for it. Attack him, make him always feel like the clock's faster than he wants it to be in his head. Show him different looks. Show him that maybe you're going to blitz when you're not. Show him that you're going to go zone when you're really going to go man. Show him that you're going to go man when you're going to go zone. Make things complicated for him and make him have to go out there and read that field like he's a quarterback that's been in the league 5, 6, 7 years, and we'll get what we need.
Well, when you look at what Buffalo did versus them, I'll tell you what they didn't do. They didn't stop the run. They were 13 for 1.
Well, we're going to do that. We're going to do that.
100%. Sam Howell did. He threw 4 interceptions and he took 9 sacks and put them behind the chains multiple times in that football game. When I look at that Washington Commanders Buffalo Bills game, it kept looking like Washington was making a drive and making a move and starting to move the ball downfield. And Sam Howell would either take a big sack that puts him real far behind the chains or throw a really bad pick. Mm-hmm. And he did both multiple times. And I think that if you look at the game, the biggest disruptor on the defense for Buffalo was Ed Oliver in the defensive tackle position. Wow, shocker. Washington's offensive line is putrid. It's not bad. It's putrid. I feel bad. Putrid. It's bad. It's putrid.
That's my measures thing.
Yeah, no, it's the Washington Commanders offensive line absolutely physically, mentally abused in that game Sunday. And it, primarily Nick Gates and Sam Cosmi and on the right side of that line, they were destroyed up front. I think what the Philadelphia Eagles need to do is rush 4, drop 7 back in zone, and allow Sam Howell to not know what's coming and intercept the ball multiple times. You can get pressure with your front 4. You don't need to blitz.
No, I'm just saying. I agree.
But make him throw into windows. Yeah. Make him try to make throws into windows, and he won't do it.
Yeah, just show him blitz sometime to get him nervous.
Oh, yeah, no, 100% show it.
Yeah, just show it.
Show and go. That's what it's called. Show and go.
I cannot wait until the Eagles come off the top rope. This is a revenge game from last year with that booty-ass win that they got. And, that was trash juice, that win, and with Tyler Heineke celebrating. Get out of here. I'm still bitter about that game. Probably lost money on that game.
Celebrate that bogus roughing the passer call because Brandon Graham fell on top of him.
Then I have to hear from the Commanders fans that I know at work, like, "Oh yeah, we're going to be a contender this year." I'm like, "You're going to contend for these nuts? Like, what? You're not contending for nothing." And I'm rooting for Bieniemy because I do think he's a good coach, but I
not this week,
not that week. And listen, Sam Howell, man, talk about I always talk about week 1 through 3, man. Talk about coming down to earth. Damn, I mean, you look at the stats, like Buffalo ran on them too. I mean, they're supposed to be a good defensive squad, James Cook was averaging 6.5 yards a carry on 15 carries. Josh Allen got his 3 for 46. Tavius Murray even got a touchdown on him. Everybody was taking a turn on him. Damian Harris got about 15 yards. I mean, I just think like we can run on them again. We're going to. And I see AJ Brown having another big day. I think they're still going to get him in the end zone. And I don't know, man. I think you got a lot of talent on that defense, but when your quarterback puts you in positions like that, it's really going to put them in a tough spot that no defense is really going to be able to overcome. I mean, short fields with 4 interceptions, or when you start a drive and, on sideline to sideline, we talked about it. I thought this would be a lot closer game. I said, take the point to Washington. It wasn't even close to that. And so I expect the Eagles to continue the march on. And I think you do what you've been doing. You keep evolving as an offense and you run that ball with your bread and butter and you build off the back of that. I like to see Dallas Goedert get more involved. He usually does pretty well against this team. I do not want to see Quez Watkins dropping a deep ball like last year. You get Quez take another week off. I'm cool with that. I'll keep Zacchaeus in there. I know they're different, but I like Zacchaeus in there. I'm just saying, it's my guy. I felt that way even before that touchdown pass. He could have got no catches. I would have felt that way. But
I felt that way the day we signed him.
yeah, and listen.
Hold on. I'm not saying that Zacchaeus is not better than Quez Watkins. I'm not saying that at all. Well, what did he do that was so special? I'm just trying to understand. He caught the
Nothing
ball,
special.
off the middle.
I just think he's a solid.
Landed in his lap. Cool would have caught that.
Yeah, see, I'm not saying a catcher special. I just think he's a good overall player. I've seen him play on other teams, like mainly the Falcons, and I think Quez Watkins is a field stretcher, and I think he's a number 4 receiver, and bring him in to stretch the field, and that's it. I'd rather see Zacchaeus out there, and the reason why he's there more than Quez probably is because he's vastly a far better run blocker than Watkins is, as far as when he has to block and they have a 3 receiver set. Not to do that often, but when they have a 3 receiver set and he's in the game where they'll bring him in and take AJ off and he's blocking. I mean, he's a better blocker than Watkins is, no doubt about it.
Okay, I mean,
we'll see when Quez gets back what they do with him, because they have this love affair with Quez Watkins that I don't think is healthy.
Yeah, if you're a 5th round draft pick, you're gonna get a T-shirt and the coach is gonna wear it, like the Gainwell T-shirt. I mean, listen, I like Gainwell, and I don't think Quez is horrible. He's a field stretcher. He needs to know his role and play it well. That's what I want to see. I know he wants to say his comments in the offseason, but I want him to know his role and execute it well. And that's what I want him to be about. Like, listen, you're not going to be catching 6-7 balls a game. We're in trouble if that's Quez Watkins. Your job is to be ready for that 1 or 2 big opportunities to get and get it. Like I want him to have the mentality that a Jason Avant had on.
We got to get into the defense, Godfrey. I'm sorry. We got to move into the defense. We got 5 minutes remaining on the show. What do the Philadelphia Eagles offense have to do against that Commanders defense? I think, just personally, the Philadelphia Eagles offense needs to control the front 4. I don't care if you keep somebody extra home blocking. This might not be a Dallas Goedert day, and play 6-on-4 football in which you're using more. That secondary will wilt. That secondary will wilt if you give them time. What makes that secondary sometimes look formidable is when the Washington Commanders pass rush gets to the quarterback. There's multiple guys in that defensive line that 100% need double teams. Jonathan Allen, Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Deron Payne, they're very, very good in their front 4. But once you get past that front 4, you got a bunch of who's who in that secondary. And I'm telling you right now, this could be a Devontae Smith type game, bounce back game for him. I look to him to have a huge game this week. I think the Eagles throw the ball a lot. I still think Swift gets his carries because these guys are primary pass rushers. That's what they are. Outside Jonathan Allen, who can just basically do anything he wants. I think the key to victory for the Philadelphia Eagles is to keep those linemen off my quarterback. Cool.
Yeah. Run the flipping ball. Take the plays that are given to you and protect the ball. That's, I feel like, all we need to do.
Run the ball, protect the ball, and take what's given. The Cool McCain keys to victory. I like it. Godfrey.
Yeah. Listen, I think it's a good Devontae Smith game. I like to see a little bit more play action. That's what I would like to see. I think the key, though, is they're going to go after that secondary. I do see that as an opportunity, as a game where I guess, quote unquote, Jalen could get right in the passing game. I think it's a great opportunity for that. And then you're going to see the Eagles, crush the Spirits with a lead and run the ball and just eat that clock. I mean, I think the recipe is there. It just has to be fine tuned. You know what the engine is. You know what the horsepower is. You got to tune it up. And that's the point we're at in the season.
I completely agree with you, Godfrey. I think the Philadelphia Eagles need to make their presence known. I think that offensive line needs to be able to attack that defensive line just as much as they need to defend. So you have to run the ball so they can get their licks in. When you have a quarterback dropping back too much and a good defensive line, The offensive line gets beat up a ton because they're constantly playing defense. When you run the football, they get to play offense. They get to hit back. And I think that when you're running the football with DeAndre Swift or whoever, they're able to hit back. The thing about this Washington Commanders team that doesn't scare me anymore is their back seven, right? The linebackers and secondary. I'm not worried about them at all. Jamin Davis is a decent linebacker. Other than that, Kendall Fuller is such an overrated cornerback. He used to be good, 4 or 5 years ago? Cameron Curl, he looks like he's like stuck in the mud. He's a very slow safety. I really love what the Eagles have laid out for them this week in Philadelphia. And I agree with you, Godfrey. This is an absolute revenge game. Let's get score predictions. Godfrey, why don't you lead us off?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put the kibosh on my team, but I'm feeling like a 34-10 win. Garbage touchdown by the Redskins in the last 2 minutes or something like that. Like last 3 or 4 meaningless minutes where it's 34-3. After that performance last week, I know the Bills are, a lot of people were saying they weren't going to be good, but as good as they did, but they kind of corrected themselves, and that was a home game. The Washington Commanders don't have the depth or the team to overcome something like that and then go into a place like Philadelphia and dominate. It's not going to happen.
All right, cool. What's your score prediction?
31-16.
See, it's really close to mine. I have the Eagles winning the game 34-17. I think the Commanders will. The truth. I think the Commanders. I think any NFL team, when they get the shit kicked out of them and they get their doors blown off, they come back differently, right?
Yeah.
If you have good leadership in your locker room, and any locker room that's got a defensive line like them has good leadership, especially with Eric Bieniemy.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be a lot of cursing going on there this week.
Yeah, so I think that they'll come back and they'll look a lot better than they did last week. I think the game will be close at halftime. I think this might be a 17-10 Eagles lead at the half, but I think in the second half, the Philadelphia Eagles continue to impose their will. They score another 17 while the Commanders only score 7. I got a 34-17 Philadelphia. Gentlemen, final thoughts, 6:54. We got a minute left on the clock. If you guys have a counterfeit green or a final thought.
Final thoughts is Washington probably does have a good locker room, but that is a rift that's going to develop between Bieniemy and Rivera as the season goes on. Eagles fans, specifically female Eagles fans, let Taylor Swift be, because if you were trying to get close to Mama Kelsey, you'd be wearing the Chiefs green, the Chiefs colors as well. We'll see what she does when they play each other. And Chris Sims, you are an idiot. You are a quarterback. You should know better. That is a trash comment by you. And,
You heard the comment, right? Cool. The Chris Sims comment. He said I would tell my defensive players to decapitate the quarterback on the tush push. I would tell him dive in, get a personal foul, could decapitate him, is what he said. So that's the comments Godfrey's referring to. If anybody at home didn't hear them, Chris Sims is a dope.
He's there because his dad was an all-timer in the league, and a broadcaster as well. So be grateful for your position and realize you were not a good quarterback in the NFL, and it's wild for you to say that. Just wild.
Agreed. Cool. Any final comments?
Fly, Eagles, fly.
I love that. I'm gonna send us out on that, right? Fly, Eagles, fly on the road to victory. Fight, Eagles, fight. Score a touchdown. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Hit them low, hit them high, and watch our Eagles fly. Fly, Eagles, fly on the road to victory. Godfrey.
Guys got great voices. Go Birds.
Well, Birds, we're wrapping up. Take care.